A new report by Human Rights Watch has found an Israeli strike on southern Lebanon that killed 3 journalists in October was most likely deliberate and a war crime. The report also says Israeli forces used US arms in the attack on the southern town of Hasbaiyya. It targeted a compound where dozens of journalists were staying and reporting on hostilities between Israeli forces and Hezbollah. The attack killed Lebanese journalists Ghassan Najjar, Mohammad Reda and Wissam Kassem. Richard Weir is Senior Crisis, Conflict and Arms Researcher at Human Rights Watch. He's joining us now from Berlin. Sir, thank you very much indeed for being with us. What makes this a possible war crime?
Yeah, well, this shocking attack is another attack on journalists and civilians in Lebanon. And what is particularly awful about this attack and what makes this a war crime is that there was no military activity in the area. We identified no military target. There were only civilians in this building. And in addition to that, the weapon that was used was a precision-guided munition, a bomb with a U.S.-produced guidance kit that makes it accurate within several meters. So there's really no mistaking this target or this attack when this attack was carried out.
I understand that this process of collecting information and evidence is time-consuming and can be very difficult. Are you able to give us a précis of how you managed to pull together the evidence for your report and process it?
So Human Rights Watch spoke to 8 journalists that were at the scene, including the owner of the compound, to try to establish who was there at the time, the circumstances of the strike. We also visited the site to evaluate the damage to the structure and the other structures that were damaged by the strike, and also were able to identify specific remnants that we could associate with a specific weapon so that we could know exactly how precise this attack was and how deliberate it would have been. We also tried to understand the totality of the circumstances. One of the other things is that the journalists were in this area for over 3 weeks, making routine movements to the same area. All the while, they heard Israeli drones overhead, indicating that this area could have also been under surveillance during this whole time. And this kind of information is what is really extremely important for us to help understand whether or not this attack was a war crime. And in the end, all of the information that we collected led us to the conclusion that this was most likely a deliberate attack and an apparent war crime on these journalists.
So what do you do with the information in the report that you've pulled together now?
Well, this information is extremely important because it can be used in future prosecutions. Now, Lebanon is not currently subject to the jurisdiction of the ICC, and one of the things that we're calling on the Lebanese government to do is to urgently accept the court's jurisdiction to investigate serious crimes on its territory, which could mean that there could be future prosecutions that include cases like these. And in addition to that, it's also important that states like the United States, who produces the guidance kit for this weapon that was used in this attack, suspend immediately their transfer of arms to the Israeli forces in order to ensure that these kinds of attacks are less likely to happen, and also because U.S. officials could be complicit for war crimes such as this attack.
Now, you did mention that Lebanon is not a signatory to the International Criminal Court. The ICC has, of course, issued arrest warrants for both Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant of the Israeli coalition. And yet we have already seen countries, some of whom are signatories to the ICC, saying that they're not going to uphold that. Even if you are able to bring some sort of prosecution, what kind of confidence could you have, and could other people have, Palestinians have, and Lebanese people have, that any case that was brought would actually be upheld and respected?
Well, what's most important is that even if there are states that are wavering in their commitments now, that other states pressure those states to ensure that there is a justice and there is a possibility for the ICC to take into custody these individuals and to eventually prosecute them. But this is not the only place where justice can be met out. There's also the possibility of universal jurisdiction. So other states that have strong statutes that allow them to prosecute other individuals who have committed crimes in other territories. This is also another avenue. So there's many other avenues for possible justice, not just through the International Criminal Court. But in any case, it's important to know that sometimes justice for these kinds of crimes takes a long time. But what's most important is that states do not give up in their individual efforts to ensure that there is accountability. Otherwise, we risk the chance that these violations will be repeated over and over again, as we have already seen they have been, particularly in Lebanon.
Richard Weir of Human Rights Watch, we appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.